What's up, everyone? What do you think? A good look for me? What am I doing? I'm about to go live with Patrick Porter, a guy who has been working on light sound goggles like the ones I'm wearing since 1987. And this is a type of biohacking that is really, really cool. What's going on is you want your brain to work better. So you say that definition of biohacking, change the environment around you and inside of you so that you have control of your own biology. So I'm pretty excited about this stuff. Sharing of technology with listeners. I was just saying before you came on that about 20 years ago, I said, I'm going to try this weird thing. No one had ever heard of it. And lo and behold, now 20 years later, I'm talking with the inventor of this kind of technology, which is awesome. And you are at the upcoming biohacking conference as well. You're the lead sponsor there. So guys, you need to DM the word conference to me. I'll hook you up with tickets if there's still some available. So Dr. Porter, how did you get involved in light sound technology and working with BrainTap?
Well, it first started with my dad being in the meditation industry. He used to teach something called the Silva method. So I grew up with it using GSR machines. And so the jump to light and sound happened in the 80s when I was introduced to a company called Light and Sound Research, and I happened to be their researcher. So that started the journey, and I was blown away by what it did to me. And then I said, wow, we got to get this out to the world. And so I've been doing it ever since. Back then, of course, we were like aliens. Nobody knew what technology was. Now people are, like yourself, you've seen it. You saw it because you're a first adopter, right? Early adopter. But a lot of other people said, wow, that's too weird for me. But now people need it more than ever. So that's why we're here.
What have you noticed from doing this over your life? I mean, you've got a long period of time of basically using flashing lights in your eyes, on your ears, and sounds to change your brain state. What did it do for you?
Well, for me, in my one book, Awaken the Genius, I talk about it for super learning, because there's so many people out there that have a problem with that. I had that problem. I used to jokingly say, Sister Barbara loved me so much, she had me 2 years in second grade. But the reality is that my dad taught us to hack our brain really through meditation. But then when we started using light and sound, I think it's really helped accelerate it. And with myself for learning and just being an entrepreneur, you've got to deal with the stress of everyday life. And so it helps bring that clarity, and also my sleep. I'm a person that people are blown away if I ever do any sleep studies, because I always get really deep sleep. And also because I travel so much, usually 43 times a year, usually 7 or 8 times out of the country. And I still remember presenting in India where I showed I landed with about a 30% neurological function with our HRV, and I showed them by the end of the day after doing 3 BrainTap sessions I was at 100%. So it's about getting more light into the body, which I know you're a big proponent of light. So get in the light at the right time, get the sound and also the vibration, getting that energy, that ATP production. That's key for healing.
I've got a couple of questions here.
Sure.
Susu, who's a registered nurse, says, what's the device stimulating? And then another question from Red says, what's different from things like Muse and other meditation products? So first, tell people, what does it stimulate and how? And then what's different from some of the other stuff out there?
Well, if you just use the ears part of it, which means you can open up the app and just use your own headphones, your ears actually bring in 3 times more energy than your eyes. So that's why sound and vibration work so well. It's going to bring energy into the brain. It's going to trigger ATP production in the brain.
Because of the lights, there's lights in the ears as well as sound, right?
I'm just talking about sound right now.
But just with sound, okay.
Just with sound. Now, what it's triggering is, when we go through brain states like alpha, we're triggering the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. We go through theta, it's triggering GABA. And of course, when we're in deep delta, we're triggering serotonin. So we're getting an uptake in these neurotransmitters, and those are just the main ones. We also find when we went to MIT and showed them what we had, we showed them that we could trigger about 23% more GABA with a 20-minute session of BrainTap, where they had a $10 million room, they would only get 6% more GABA. So I mean. Wow. So when we're really stimulating brainwave activity, and when the brain's in harmony, let's say it's out of coherence, because the right and left hemisphere might be out of coherence, which is usually what's happening with ADD, ADHD, cognitive decline, when people have let's say they have traumatic brain injuries, we need to get that brain back balanced. And that's the first 4 minutes of every session. And they're all different. A lot of people don't understand neuroplasticity. They think, wow, I'm going to listen to this one frequency. If you only listen to one, your brain will, just like lifting weights, it goes, wait, we already did that 15 times. We need to do something different. We need to stress out the body. So we're going to stress out the brain. So we're really working the brain to create that vasodilation, blood flow, and circulation. Now, when you enhance that with light, all the benefits people know about laser light, LED, low-level light therapy, all of that's coming to play. We're going to have vasodilation, blood flow, circulation. It just accelerates it. That's really the biohack is, you know, when we start to add in the light.
Inside the earpiece, there's light, and then inside the eyepiece, clearly there's a bunch of light that comes in. Now, the stuff in the earpiece, are those lasers that are hitting your ear, or are those LEDs?
No, they're LEDs, but the way it works is we're going to do little blood doping there. With anybody who's done acupuncture, they know that the meridians, all junctions are in the ear, but also we slow down blood flow in the ears. So for 3 or 4 minutes, that blood is sitting there. The hemoglobin absorbs photons. Those photons circulate through the body, finding those cells that are about to die. The apoptosis is happening. That mitochondria absorbs that light, and then the instruction set of that cell turns back on. And it does it through nitric oxide, you know, all the things that light does. But we're bringing red and blue light into the ears, mainly because those are the two that our brain needs the most. 470 nanometer light, very clean, precise light, and 633. Now, if we could put 810 light, that would be even better, and that might be a future one. And I know when a lot of our doctors use it, which we have about 2,300 clinics using this, they might even use a brain cap that has light in it that some people use for like hair growth.
I've got some. Light on the brain works, guys. If you're saying, seriously, this is weird, no. One of my most treasured biohacking devices going back about 20 years was the first shipping infrared light on the brain. And it would literally change the way your brain worked to the point I'd do it back here over my language processing center. If I did it for too long, I would speak in garbled words. Don't do that. That's bad. But light on the brain really matters. And this is different than light on the skin, right? And you guys know I actually have one of my companies does that. But this is around specific acupuncture points. And if you're saying, okay, I'm going to roll my eyes at acupuncture, there's plenty of data for that. But there's acupressure. And even at 40 years of Zen, we use specific essential oils on acupuncture points, and we see differences in brain waves. So you can stimulate these points here, and there's whole branches of Chinese medicine there. So what happens when you take a relatively new tech, like light and sound stimulation, and you stack it with doing things where there's lots of blood flow in your ears, right? Setting up a wave in the brain to put it where you want it to be, not where it wants to be, right? And then having flashing lights that are tied in to the wave that you're setting up with the sound, what you get is a brain that goes where you tell it to go, like to wake up in the morning. You do 10 minutes of this, like I've got this day, or even to help you sleep. And so there's some powerful stuff going on here. And I have used this on airplanes. In fact, I used probably something that you created years and years ago, and people would be like, this guy must be an alien or something, instead of lights spilling out. But now it's much easier because it's it's in a single piece where the visor folds down. So I literally can just put it on for 10 minutes and you're good to go in the morning. So if you guys are thinking like, how do I make my brain behave when it won't do what I want? Like I'm tired, I want to be focused, today's an important day. This is why, hey brain, you don't have a choice because you're going to listen and you're going to see. And so I'm just going to make you hear what I want you to hear to make you do what I want you to do. And I've noticed changes from this for many years. Just now it works well. And there's a menu of programs that are usable. Before it was like you had to get like a weird meditation CD and you didn't really know what it was doing. It was pretty early days, because you were there. But now it's just dialed in. What about this question from Red about how's it different from like neurofeedback on the brain from Muse and stuff like that?
Well, Muse, actually, we're just getting ready to post because I went through the Muse protocol in less than 45 days. So I'm a super muser. But what I did at first was I figured, what can I do? Well, I average about 260 birds every 10 minutes. And I did that with the BrainTap. So what happens is Muse doesn't really do anything. You've got to work the Muse. And that's fine. But with BrainTap, you just press play to change. And we talked about this before, like a month ago when we spoke at our summit, where we were talking about biophotons and that. If you don't have the energy, your body can't produce that light that it needs to produce the changes that you want in your life. So what we're going to do when you're using your own meditation, yeah, you can do it. Breath work's very powerful. But what if you synchronized all that? Like what's happening in the right ear is happening with the left eye and vice versa. So we're creating a synchronized brain. Most people's brain is dysregulated. So you can sit and meditate for 20 years, just like your Zen program. You've got to dedicate yourself to doing that. We don't need that anymore. Technology says, hey, let's hack that 20 years. Let's get you to the mountaintop today.
Yeah.
Don't go to Nepal and take the plane ride and sit at the foot of the yogi. You can just put this on in the comfort of your own home and start changing it. I mean, if they go online and just put in hashtag BrainTap, they're going to see most of their favorite biohackers using it because it's something you can stack, right? If you're doing something else, like maybe using compression pads, or you're using light therapy is a good one. You can put the pads on your gut if you want to do that gut-brain access thing. And there's so many things you can do. And what I love about the biohacking industry is they're very creative. I mean, they're always looking for that little edge, in what they can do. And if you can get brain function, we're changing our gene expression every 40 seconds, right? So when we're doing that, what are you changing it to? If your old thinking, I always tell people, it's just like your operating system on your computer. I have to go to the people that write that code. I don't know how to do it, but I know I need to upgrade my computer. So this is a way to get to that place where you can upgrade your biocomputer and start operating at a higher frequency. That's really what we're talking about.
It's a really profound perspective where you're saying you have to work neurofeedback, right? So you're saying I'm going to focus, and there's all kinds of things I've done that have improved my brain function, where you learn to do this. And even something like ping pong, right? It's a skill. It changes your reaction time, changes cross patterning. It's really good for your brain. So there's a learning with action. There's another thing where you say, I'm going to meditate. But when you meditate, you have to pay attention, right? It's not like you just go to sleep, although a lot of people do that when they meditate. So what's happening there is you're saying, okay, I'm going to visualize whatever. I'm going to see this, and there's an action there. With this kind of tech, the tech turns on the state. You can just sit there. In fact, your brain will go there whether you really like it or not. Right. And so this can be less work on some parts, but I believe you also need to get your mitochondria working. If you're eating bulletproof, you're taking supplements to make your mitochondria work, you always get more benefits from any brain enhancing technology because the brain has enough energy to do its job. Right. So it's that passive, I'm going to sit there, I'm going to let it help me, or I'm going to go and I'm going to do the work. And you kind of have to do both, really. But this is going to show your brain where you want it to be. And then it's your brain's job to kind of come out of that versus you force your brain into it. So I find it does stick better if you do it.
Yeah, just so the listeners know too, that we're big proponents of neurofeedback.
Yeah.
But what we want you to do is use neurofeedback just like you would a workout, because you're working out the brain. That's a lot more than the muscles. And then do a calm down or a cool down just like you would with your workout, but use the BrainTap. That's what when we work with the clinics, they're using neurofeedback because people want to know, hey, can I control this with my mind? And so it's really good to do that. But what happens is when most brains are out of regulation, dysregulated, and they do neurofeedback, they're so stressed out. And we can tell that by high delta activity, which means inflammation in the brain. So that's where the supplementation comes in and getting the biology right. And we have a study we did with a group in Provo, Utah for it was a supplement for the brain for addiction, and they found that with 30% more absorption in the brain when they did a BrainTap session or when they didn't. So there's technology now where you can track almost anything, and that's because the parasympathetic system, or what we call the healing brain, is turned on. If you overwork your body, just like most people know, like the pro athletes we work with or the Olympic athletes, they usually don't have a problem working out. Their problem is they don't have the downtime or they don't have the recovery right. So they work themselves, they grind their body into the ground. And we want to make sure they get that balance.
And can you overdo light sound therapy with BrainTap? I mean, if I did it like all day, every day, what would happen?
Well, there's a point of no return. There's a point of diminishing return. And we find that usually if somebody does more than 4 or 5 sessions in a day, although we're in several hospitals for recovery, we have a whole medical series because there's a lot of evidence out there that shows if you can relax after surgeries, even before surgeries, you don't have to have as much anesthetic. And that means a quicker healing, faster healing. So they use it in those hospitals, and people will just, every time they wake up, press the button and do another session. We find 3 times a day is usually ultimate, but the nervous system, most people don't know this, but your nervous system is going to try to reset to whatever your neural norm is every 72 hours. But if you're doing something like you're adjusting that every day because you're eating healthy, you're thinking healthy, you're doing those healthy things, it never goes back. It's kind of like following to grandma's house and somebody picked up the crumbs, so you can't find your way back. You don't want to find your way back to that old you. You want to develop this new, more impressive you that's ready for the new situations. And instead of, a lot of people drag on their past, whether it be emotional baggage or physical baggage or whatever it is. And so we want you to keep improving the nervous system. And just like anything else, stress drives change, even though we don't really like stress. So why don't we do it in a fun way? That's why most people love sports and doing some kind of activity, because there's some kind of reward. So we need to have a reward mechanism, and neurotransmitters are one of the best ways to get your rewards. So you get this great hit of neurotransmitters and you go, wow, all I did was take a nap. But you didn't really just take a nap. You just worked out your brain, and your body got recharged because of that ATP production that happened.
Yeah, I love that perspective. It makes so much sense where you can overdo it, but you don't need to. What about kids? Claire's asking. I'm scrolling through our questions here.
With kids, we have a really good program. In fact, one of our doctors out of Orange County did all the research on autism. So what we found was autism. We speak it was really the alpha. When you're talking about this part of the brain, that center of the brain for an autistic brain, it's not functioning right. So they don't have alpha, so they can't speak. But once they train their brain, everybody could learn. It's just a matter of what's the stimulus. It's the science is called frequency following response. So if we wanted more alpha, we could do things outside, maybe with action, like martial arts, breathing exercises. That stimulates alpha. What we found was with kids, most kids now, not autistic kids, but most kids have too much alpha and not enough beta, which is that's the cognitive one. And that means they're going to be hyperactive. If they have the right balance, there's a mix for that. So our sessions for children don't take them as deep into theta, which is the state that we go to in most cases as adults. Most adults are missing theta, and they're not producing enough GABA. That's why they're not sleeping. It has nothing to do with anything else, really. If we can increase their GABA response, they're going to sleep like a baby because the brain needs that. It's kind of like the precursor to serotonin. If you don't have that GABA, and that's why in medical science they're trying to produce it. So children need more alpha and get them more focused. And they're only 10 minutes too. And I love it when a parent says, oh, my child will never sit and do that. If they look at the stories that are online, they're going to see parent after parent going, my kids asked to do this. Kids want to feel good. We inherently want to feel good. And even though they're hyperactive and you put them on the equipment and they pass out, and then in 10 minutes they woke up and they go, what just happened to me? And we call it brain prep. We're in several elementary schools and things like that. So brain prep means we're getting, like right now, especially if people are working from home or doing school from home, if they did a BrainTap session, even the auditory with just the earbuds, they would find that their child would be more focused. Now, if they watch TV, it's going to dysregulate the brain. We've done a lot of studies with that too. So we tell people, if you're going to do some learning or something, don't turn on the TV first, because it's a very sporadic alpha, and it really dysregulates the brain because it's doing the thinking for you. In other words, you want to regulate the brain and do your own thinking.
I'm seeing other questions. There's tons of questions. I'm like scrolling up and down here while you're talking and looking to pull out the right ones. There's one I'm trying to figure out where it is here. Okay, how young of a child? I was going to say who said that, but
we actually have pictures of babies that have colic, and they put the BrainTap on them and they stop crying, because when the brain's regulating, there's no pain outside of the state of beta. I recommend though 4 years old. 4 years old.
Yeah, babies seem a little bit like there's a lot going on in there we didn't even know. So
right, and they already have all the brain waves. They don't need. Our brain is fully connected when we're born, and actually disconnects as we get older. People think it's the other way around, but it's actually we're fully neurologically connected. That's why we can learn so fast and easy, because all those neural pathways are opened up, and we start shutting them down as we learn things. And that's why people get robotic, or people say you're fixed in your ways. It's because they've decided to make this the way they're going to think or the way they're going to respond. And they can go as old. We have a person right now that actually reported she's 102 years old, getting phenomenal results. So I think really anybody most people are probably going to start their kids around 7 years old though, because that's the age when you start to turn off a lot of that high theta and start turning on more beta, and they start to get the behavioral problems because they're dysregulated from we really want to have a symphony of brainwaves. There's not one brainwave that's more important than others. It's like a gear shifter in a car. If we can shift gears, like if you're working out, you want to have a little bit of that active brain, or what we call the survivor brain, because that's just going to help you thrive. But then afterwards, you need to shut that off. If you're the type of person that gets one bad text in the morning, and then in the evening, you're still telling everybody about it, you probably you have a dysregulated brain because you're not able to put that away.
Yeah.
Think of the top performing quarterbacks. When Tom Brady was in his prime, he could throw 3 interceptions in the first quarter, come back and throw 4 and win the game. He didn't dwell on those 3 failures. He was dwelling on what could he do. So it's having the right mindset and getting into the right gears, and so you can shift through life.
Okay. I see a question about hair growth. Unless you're talking hair in your ears, it's not going to do anything for that.
Right. You can see how well it works. So you can see how well.
There you go. I know it's working for me. No, okay.
Yours is looking good, so I need to get your app. I need to get your application.
Yeah, and I might have done some other hacks there. People are going to hear about that at the conference. By the way, guys, if you like this, BrainTap, where Patrick is the head scientist, is the lead sponsor for the Biohacking Conference. It's this Saturday. So you should sign up. Just send me a direct message. It says conference, a private message, not in the comments here. And I'll respond immediately with a link for the conference that's actually clickable for you. I can't put clickable links here for you. You should sign up. There's still a few spots left, and you're going to have a community of thousands of people. Patrick's presenting, and you're going to learn more about all the different things that helps your brain work. And this is a really fundamental technology it's been around, but no one's ever put it together. And I couldn't believe it when I first saw this thing, because instead of weird CD players and tapes and glasses and stuff that really was like putting stuff together with duct tape, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
This thing, you plug it into your phone. It also Bluetooths. You put it on. It's the only thing that goes in through the ears with light. And you put these down and you lay there for 10 minutes, and literally you're in a different state, different than you'd get from meditating. But I think it's really worth doing. And here's a question. You may not be able to say this because this is going to sound weird if you guys aren't in the industry around health stuff. If you have something and medical studies that show that your thing is illegal, especially in the US, for you to say what it does. And that's because only drugs can fix people. Anything else cannot do that by law. Even if it does do that, it doesn't matter. You can't say that it does it. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to frame it a little bit. So guys, stick with me because it's a long question, which is not a great way of interviewing someone. But I sat down once on a couch next to a neuroscientist from a major university who had just filed a patent and started a company looking at 40 hertz light, basically blinking 40 times a second. She found that it reliably broke down Alzheimer's tangles or plaque in the brain. She's like, we could cure Alzheimer's disease just by pulsing light. Oh my God. So there's a question in our thing here. Do you have any information about using BrainTap with Alzheimer's? I don't even know if you're doing 40 hertz. But yeah, give me the story on Alzheimer's.
That's what I was doing at MIT, actually, with Lou Tai, who did the research, and she has the.
I sat next to.
Yeah, so she has the BrainTap. We showed her that we got 23% gamma production, and that's exactly what we can do. Now, what we found is just doing that 10-minute session you're talking about, a 23% improvement in gamma. So you're breaking down amyloid plaque. Now, the thing about the drug studies you're talking about, we have 2 studies going on in the world right now, in Brazil and in India. The Government Institute of Medical Science and the government of Brazil, they're both paying for BrainTap to be digitally tested. They're calling it a digital drug because we triggered neurotropics. Just like you would take it over the counter, but now with light, sound, and vibration, we're triggering them. We're doing full blood tests. We're going to have the information so we can make these claims for depression, anxiety, all these different disorders. We already have one for fibromyalgia that has been proven out at Ames Institute. And we are also doing fMMR studies in India at Nimmans, which is the world's largest mental hospital in the world. And they're using BrainTap there because they don't have enough therapists. So that, they can do more things over there than we can do in America, right? We have to have all this regulation and bookwork, but we're proving it out at Seminole College here in Florida is doing a lot of research with us. Northern State in Arkansas, which is a Division I team. We're doing it with their tennis team and their golf team. The golf team in Seminole College that uses BrainTap has won the Nationals 2 years in a row. So usually we get people who want to do sports, sports improvement, because they're the ones that will spend the money. They want to get doing that. Athletes,
actors, Wall Street traders, and entrepreneurs are like the people who will do anything to make their brains work better. You're totally right.
I just wanted to say.
Oh, go ahead.
They clinically know that our brain can create 30,000 different neurochemicals with the right stimulus. So every drug you take, every nutrient you take is usually a response in the brain. It's not always the nutrient. The nutrient triggers the response and it has a cascading effect. And if it works for you, then you get this great benefit. If it doesn't work for you, you got to find the one that triggers that response. What we know is our bodies are tuned to the light from the sun and through sound and vibration. So we're going to use things like solfeggio frequencies and light, sound, but all those vibrations together actually resonate. Our earth resonates from 0.01 to 100, just like our brain. So we're going to kind of mimic that. That's what we're doing. That's the hack anyway.
I love it. And that idea of resonating the brain is such a big deal. There's a bunch of interesting new questions here, but we are out of time. There's questions about other types of brain entrainment with sound and how connected this is to that. So guys, I'm going to encourage you. You want to learn more about BrainTap, you can definitely go to the BrainTap webpage. It is a real biohacking technology with tons of science, and Patrick's the guy who did the science and has been working on this. And as you can tell, he's working with big institutions with actual neuroscience, the real stuff. So if you didn't know blinking lights, blinking the right way with the right sounds at the right time in the right places could do this, well, now you know, and it is real. And if you want to say it doesn't work, then you have to ignore a lot of science. So I just want this to be in your consciousness that this is a way to dial up a brain state. Now, I want you to direct message the word conference to me. Send me a private message that says conference. I'm going to send you a link to the conference. You can sign up for the conference. There's discounts for BrainTap there and discounts for all this other stuff and a whole slate of people all day Saturday who are going to be giving talks like this. I'm interviewing them live. We've got a whole crew coming in. In fact, some of the guys who organized the TED event are working to organize the biohacking conference this year. And BrainTap is our main title sponsor. So you guys want to hack your brain? You want to be a biohacker? You just want to learn how to own your own biology? Well, Patrick's an expert. You're going to hear more from him then. DM the word conference. In the meantime, check out BrainTap. And you can follow Patrick. And Patrick, what's the URL for BrainTap? It's
BrainTap Tech, at BrainTap Tech. And they can follow us there. Also, if they want to know the science, they can go to braintap.com/BH20, like biohack 20. We put a page there so that they want to know the science. Most people don't care about the science. They just want the results. But I know biohackers are into the science. So we put together some science packets there for them.
Awesome. Thank you for your work, Patrick. You've spent decades developing this stuff, and now we can change our brains. I will see you at the conference on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you very much. Love being here. Love what you do. Thank you.
Thanks.